Tansei, welcome to Métis Minute, your source for Métis news in Region 7. Welcome back to Métis Minute. I am your host, Samantha Loney, and I am here today to continue some coverage from the Midland City Council. We covered a story about the Lumex Group's recent report on Midland's community safety. This safety report was done from the perspective of the fire department. Today, we are going to follow up with a story from the perspective of the police department. The police department attended a recent city council meeting to share their Detachment Action Plan. The Detachment Action Plan contained information about crime prevention and community well-being. So we wanted to bring that story to you today.
Good evening, everybody. Thanks for having me here tonight. I want to go over our 2023 to 2025 Detachment Action Plan. Fairly briefly, I don't know how much time I have here, but I think it will lead to a bit of a larger discussion around the room on what we're looking for in community and perhaps some of the services we provide as a police service. So there's three main themes that our Detachment Action Plan covers. One is crime, really a focus on addressing and preventing crime in our communities that we police, and that's all 5 communities. Focus on our waterways, roadways, and our trail systems on how we police those, types of patrol, proactive enforcement, both ATV, vehicle, and in our boats, and motorized snow vehicles. And lastly, a focus on community well-being, which I think is where we'll probably spend some of our time for comments. Specific to crime, so I'll stop after each one to see if there's any comments. Specific to crime, we have a focus on addressing and preventing crime. So really, we're looking for a reduction in crime, reduced victimization, and positive outcomes in our communities is what we want through our policing. That's about building relationships, maintaining partnerships, including victim services, focusing on intimate partner violence, working with their Crown attorneys on prosecutions, probation and parole. Educating youth in our schools is a really big one in the area of violence, of victimization, promoting awareness as well in the schools. We do have a community services officer that pretty much does that full time. Ensuring that our policies align with ministry guidelines in how we investigate domestics and making sure the right things are done. And working with their community street crimes unit, obviously to target drug violence and monitoring drugs and drug trafficking and drug houses in our communities, which I'm sure we are all very well aware of. Using our auxiliary program for crime prevention and community engagement, and working with our MCERT. So they're formerly known as CMART. We are actually switching the name as MCERT, which is our mental health crisis response team. That is coming in the future. So you may see the banners change on the vests with the clinicians that are out with our officers. And we're looking at utilizing them. So we're going to increase our complement. Right now, essentially, we have 1 officer full-time with 1 MCERT worker. We're looking at taking another officer and putting them out there full-time, which should give us some capacity to do some proactive work in community, which I think is going to be essential and very important. And just continuing to deliver crime prevention programs to reduce victimization, scams, senior scams, which are actually going up quite a bit right now. You'll see the frauds with the seniors. So that's really our crime prevention focus. And as per the Community Safety and Policing Act, which is now in force, it replaced the Police Services Act. As a detachment commander, I am required to consult with each of the municipal councils for the communities that we're responsible for policing to get comments back on the plan and on what we police. So for crime, is there any comments that you would have, focuses, things that you're noticing, things that you could see maybe needing some more focus? I mean, I think drugs are the obvious one in community, but is there anything else?
Go ahead, Councillor. Thank you, through your worship. So if maybe we could pay or have a little bit more attention, you know, maybe walking the streets downtown. I know behind, especially the banks, when the owners are leaving their businesses at night, they're being aggressively harassed. I got a call from a local restaurant owner and she was walking out and they were quite aggressively wanting her cell phone. And when she wouldn't give her cell phone, and you have to forgive me, I'm trying to still learn how to speak here. Um, they were very violent with her. That the parking lots, especially downtown and up by the Tim Hortons up on the highway, are very, very heavily populated with aggression. And unfortunately, it paints an image that the downtown core isn't safe when it really is. It's just there's certain areas that might just need a little bit more attention. I don't know if it's an education to um, the people causing disturbances. I know that, you have mental issues or addiction issues or many, many different issues that they're facing. But the problem is that our store owners are afraid to leave at night. The bank workers are afraid to leave to go to their cars in the parking lots. So the word that I'm receiving from the residents and the workers of the downtown core especially is that maybe a little bit more police presence, especially during certain times like the mornings. It's challenging because there's a lot of spots that um, the people tend to hang around, right? But it makes people uneasy. And we really want to paint that downtown as safe because it is. It's just certain times that maybe we could have a little bit more police presence. And then once again, those back parking lots, especially when, you're getting out at 5, 6 o'clock. Um, it would just make the business owners and their employees a little bit more easy feeling and maybe our residents a little bit more easy feeling to utilize the downtown services. So that was one thing that was brought to me by many phone calls. So I'll just let you address that. And thank you very much for every OPP serving us.
Thank you very much, Councillor Reese. It's good to see you again as well. Um, So it's a bit of a multifaceted issue. I think that there is a temporary solution perhaps to increasing visibility. I am aware that One Community Solutions is being contracted, I believe, by the County Simcoe coming up this way to do some proactive work as well. So I want to say that the OPP will be a willing partner in that, and however that looks, and however we can target the areas that need that extra patrol. One of the periods that we're coming into right now is one of our busiest periods for us as police. It's the summer. Last year was our busiest, probably most unprecedented summer on in recent history for calls for service, which is something we can't control, but we have an obligation to respond to. So I think in looking at the policing needs of the other four communities, as well as Midland, which we do give quite a bit of police services to, and then the need for the extra patrols, I think one of the things that I'm prepared to do, and something that I'm prepared to take to the officers, is to put out proactive patrols, and we could call them community patrols. I think I'd be interested in evidence-based. So what are the times that are kind of need to be targeted, days of the week, or any particularly worse than others, and look to put those out as overtime shifts and staff it. Overtime can be a bit of a trick at times because people look at that and go, oh, increases to my taxes, increase policing costs, increase. Yes and no. So if it's a very busy summer and overtime costs are up just by virtue of the calls for service and the types of calls, then yes, there would be an increase in the overall policing costs. However, if overtime is down because the calls for service demand isn't there, then we won't need it as much. And you really won't notice the impact of some extra shifts that we put out there. So I just want to be full, frank, and fair about that. I do have an approach to do it. Do I think, though, it's the long-term solution? No, I don't. I don't think it's the permanent fix. I know that we are looking at other things as a police service. There's a special constable review right now, for example, that we're looking at how we could utilize special constables. And so can we put them out on patrol? Can we use them for community events? And so we're looking at changing the way that we police, and that's being explored right now. So that may be a viable solution as we move down the road as well. I think in working with the One Community Solutions is going to be, may change things a bit as well. So thank you for that comment, Councillor. I appreciate it.
Councillor McDonald. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I just want to clarify your comment in regards to working with students. And I'm curious, are you welcome into all the schools with the school boards now?
We are, and I actually learned something very interesting last week about programming. So all of the programming that we deliver as a police service now has to be pre-approved by the Board of Trustees. So anything that we deliver, any messaging programs. So for example, we used to do a junior constable promise where we would go in and the students would see their car and we'd give them a little badge and they would make a promise that they would be nice to each other. And it was that, so it was really like a school community event. Those types of things aren't approved right now. We do have some approved programming on cyberbullying. There's a lot of, I guess, criminality that can happen now in schools with sharing of images, photos through phones. So there's a lot of education that we do in the schools on that, but we are welcome into our public school system. And I know that our Catholic school system is entering into discussions on getting us in there more. Thank you.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. My question is on clarification of drug houses, and I guess what I can do as a counselor in Midland, talking to residents, because I am quite honestly at a loss now. I know that you are very reactive to situations in drug houses. You're there all the time because residents that live beside them tell me that you're there all the time. So my question, I guess, is why are these not shut down? Why are they not? I mean, I get the emails. I see that there's been charges laid, but it's not with every owner of the home. It's not with every resident in the home. So when you're picking people up from these drug houses, they're all, you know, you pick them up at 5 a.m., they're back selling drugs at 5 p.m. So what am I supposed to tell residents about that? Am I supposed to lobby for stricter drug laws? I'm just wondering what I'm supposed to tell residents and how that's being dealt with, because I know you're there, I know you're aware. So what's the next step forward? How can I make these people that are living beside these houses feel safe? Because we've had residents move out of Midland because of them.
Absolutely. Thanks. Thank you very much for the question, Councillor Ball. So in the last 5 years, and I gave the statistic with Tay Township, we have laid 22,777 charges as a police service in 5 years, not necessarily all drug related in total. 45% of those charges have been withdrawn by the Crown. So a part of our issue, and I'm not blaming the Crowns, I understand that they have struggles in the courts to even get court clerks and court staff to process documents. So there seems to be a systemic issue with the entire system, with space in jails. So even though we may want to jail people, there's no space in the jails. And this is a part of the frustration that the community feels and that the police feel with almost this catch and release type of system that's going on. We catch them, we charge them, we hold them for bail, and then they're back out again by 5 p.m. selling drugs again on the street. The only thing that I could offer, Councillor Ball, is that perhaps as a council, one of the things that Penetanguishene Town Council did was they wrote a letter using some of the statistics, and I'm happy to provide them to this council as well, petitioning the Ministry of the Attorney General saying, we need to do better. We need to hold people accountable. Our communities expect it. Our police are out there doing the work. Our citizens deserve it. We deserve to feel safe in our communities and to get behind that. Otherwise, it's still have them report. We will show up. We will do our jobs and arrest. But I think it's going to take a systemic change to fix this problem. It's a broader problem than I think just responding to calls for service. That's one of the ways is we could get together and petition, and I think enough voices draw attention.
Follow up.
Thank you. I would love the statistics because I know that you're there, because I hear that you're there. So I would like to take it as far as I can to be able to get our residents what they need. And I'm sure that it's as frustrating for you as it is for me. So please provide them. I would love to write a letter and follow Penetanguishene in that way. I appreciate
Councillor.
that.
Councillor Patel.
Through you, Deputy. So I think we have the auxiliary police that OPP has, maybe educating the small business in downtown core, how to prevent any, I guess, crime against them. I guess better education is the word I'm looking for. Creating like a little mini task force, maybe going business by business, or an email list, create and just send out mass email to all the businesses. Because prevention is the key. I mean, being in the accommodation business that I'm in, we always look for preventions because, once a client goes in the room, we don't know what's going to happen. So we always look ways to prevent any crime from happening. So not everybody has the same experience as we do dealing with different types of people. So maybe creating a prevention task force so businesses can be better educated through low-level lighting, which can prevent crime as well. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Patel, for the comment. We do use our auxiliaries in a program called Project Safeguard. They do go out. It is about protecting property. We can have that delivered. Of interest, I am meeting with the BIA specifically in Midland in the next 2 weeks to talk about some of the safeguarding of businesses, some of the issues that business owners face, and how we can provide better services. Albeit understanding some of it's private property, but I am aware that there's trespassing that happens in the back of the properties with people with drug use and refusing to move along, right? So I think that working with the businesses, getting that information out, setting up those presentations through our auxiliary program is definitely something that I would be interested in doing and seeing through. Thank you.
Follow up.
Thank you. I think we're in the right direction.
Thank you, Council.
Does anybody else have any questions? No. Councillor Metis.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost, through you to Mr. Pittman, or Inspector Pittman. I'm on the BIA, the BIA rep for the town, so I'll see you in 2 weeks, and I'm sure we'll have a great discussion again with the BIA. And we've had many conversations, the BIA, received many phone calls in the last couple of weeks, and I'm sure you've heard of the issues. Council has received letters, but the frustrating part about situations that occur in our community, it seems like we talk about it, but nothing's happening. It's getting worse and worse and worse, and it's nothing frustrating from being in this seat, as same thing in your position, to constantly, it seems like our hands are tied and we can't do nothing because there aren't any solutions. We can write letters, but I'm sure, the letters where they're going, they already know the situation, right? So does a letter need to put a little bit of fire under them to react? It shouldn't work that way. It is happening everywhere, but in our downtown, we have public urination, we have open alcohol, open drug use. Everybody sees it, but yet nothing is being done. I personally was behind an OPP cruiser, and there's a gentleman on the sidewalk with an open can of beer, right? Went right by. Now, the frustration could be because, you know what? I'm going to go over there, dump his beer, and he's going to come and get another one or beg for more change and get more drug or alcohol. And it's no fault to the OPP officers. But when the public, like I'm not only am I a tax-paying citizen, safety is important to our community, to our downtown, business owners, the downtown people who frequent downtown are locals and our tourists, right? So they're being approached at banks, bank machines. It came to a point where I talked to the manager of Scotiabank, and they are now hiring their own security, right? Which, you know, banks are there for profit, and if this escalates where they're, you know, the last thing we need is our financial institutions leaving our downtown core. So there's some serious issues downtown and in the community. I'm specifically talking about downtown. And what can we do? You know, further on to the issues that are happening in the back of commercial spaces. You know, there was an incident, you know, in a washroom where there was someone shooting up drugs in a washroom, and if that was my business, I don't think I would have been as kind as this person was, right? And had I acted in a way that I felt was necessary because of the frustration, I might go to jail. But yet we have, you know, the open drug use, the alcohol, and it's hurting our downtown. It's hurting our community. So when we transitioned to OPP from our Midland Police Service, our level of service to our community shouldn't go down. You know, I don't think that was at that time, counselors that were on, you know, sitting in this position. I'm pretty sure they didn't vote for that, but yet the amount of police presence in our community seems less than it was before. The amount of police that are informed about what's going on, who's coming into our town. You know, the strangers, like before, Midland Police Service kind of knew who was local and who was not. So I don't get that feeling from the community that that's the case anymore. We have, you know, the downtown core businesses know the locals, and they know when there's a new bunch just came into town, right? And now it repeats all over again because now they have to figure out what this person's all about. And not saying they're all here to cause disturbances, but those that do are not being you know, penalized. So they just keep on doing it again and again. So the frustration is there, and I'm sure you know. And sitting in this seat, I'm at a loss right now. You know, I'm, you know, with the Councillor Ball here, it's frustrating, and it's going to get to a point where, you know, things are going to get, you know, we don't want it to escalate. We just want to get this under control. So, and we're working on things as council here, but we could only do so much.
Thank you very much for the comment, Councillor Metis. Councillor East, you had.
Councillor East.
Thank you, through your deputy, Mayor Prost. What do you need from us to ask the OPP to be provided with more police officers to help you guys? Because the truth is, you guys are taking a beating when you're really just trying to do your job. You're exhausted. The catch and release system is completely failing our justice system, and the rotating justice system. You're right on point. You do your job, they're out in hours. They don't care. With the resources that we have with the mental health center and the super jail, and other unique situations, what would you need from us and say the county of Simcoe to press for maybe some more help on the streets with you? Some more police officers. Do you think that might help your exhausted police officers? And I just, you know, I'll end on this. I just think you guys deserve to be praised. I know that you're doing the best that you can, and it's exhausting. I can only imagine what you guys come home to every single night, frustrated with exhaustion. So what my question is, what can we as a council working together do to help you?
Thank you very much for the question, Councillor East. And actually just moved from roadways, waterways, and trails, which is the next part of the Detachment Action Plan, to community well-being. And I think really we're hitting at the root cause of some of the problems. So there's some thinking out there that if we put another 100 officers, so if I could get another 100 officers and I could put them out, will that actually solve the problems that are occurring in community? You're right, Councillor Metis, it won't. I think that what we're looking at is that there are root causes to why these things happen. So specifically in the North Simcoe Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan, which is quite large, we have 3 themes for this area specifically that we're focusing on. We have higher rates of mental health and addiction. We have struggles with housing for people to be able to afford housing, because we have lower rates of education, therefore lower rates of unemployment and lower rates of wage. So it creates a bit of an issue for our area locally. This is something that's listed in the 2021 to 2025 Community Safety and Wellbeing Plan for this area. So when I look at our response on will more police fix the problem, I don't think so. I think what is being missed, though, and total transparency with the council here, and I'm willing to talk about this and say this to anybody, and something that I think that council can help me with, is I see that we have partner agencies. The OPP is one of them. We have a role in community safety, albeit we don't have really any role in solving housing or education or mental health. We respond to the calls, but we do have partners that do this, that specialize in this. What I think we need to do, and what I would be interested in, is when we took a look, and this community safety and wellbeing plan will be looked at again. When we took a look at this earlier this year, I asked a question. I said, who is actually focusing on education? So which partner is out in community working with people on higher levels of education? Who is doing that? Who is actively out there, boots on the ground, interacting with people, that is working on mental health and addictions? And who out there is trying to have sustainable, affordable housing? And I know Simcoe is building some, I'm aware of that, but who is actively promoting this? So we have people doing things, but in silos. What I find is that there's not a lot of coordination, at least I haven't seen it since I've been here. So something that I am very interested in as a partner at the table, no, we don't lead these things, but I would be happy to be a voice to talk about some of the mental health, to talk about some of the drug issues, to bring the statistics, to say, this is how much we're responding. So how can we get to the root causes and do better as service providers? Honestly, I think that's what we need. I think that's what's missing. Our detachment staffing is at an all-time high right now. Since I've been here, we have had more staff in the detachment. We're actually overstaffed right now. So we have officers. They do get tired in the summer because you have competing vacation requests, time off, and then increased calls for service. Our calls increase significantly. So there is an exhaustion factor that comes in, which is why I say that the increased foot patrols through overtime is temporary, because I can't guarantee we're going to fill all the shifts, because officers need their time off as well. But I'm willing to step up as a partner to say, hey, we're willing to step up. We're willing to put more people out. We're willing to do this, but we need the assistance of the other partners. A plan that's only a plan that's written on paper, that's not operational, meaning people actually aren't doing it, is no good. It's worth the paper that it's written on. So I think to answer both Councillor Meredith's question and your question, Councillor East, is we need engagement from the community partners. I think we need to sit down and figure out who is doing what in a coordinated fashion for the betterment of community is exactly what I think we need.
Councillor McDonald?
Thank you, Inspector Pittman. I'm very excited to hear that you want to step up as a partner. I don't know if you were aware of, but last October, Midland presented a symposium that was called Hope Housing and Health. I think there was an OPP presence there. I don't quote me on that. But, and there is some material coming out soon. We'll make sure you get a copy. And what that symposium was all trying to pull together all the agencies so that we can start working together. And we're hosting another one this October. And seeing as you want to step up as a partner, we'll be contacting you on how to assist us with that symposium. Because I think that that's the right track. We have to find out which agency is doing what, where the duplicates are, where are we lacking, how can we work together in educating ourselves, our residents, and move on, provide some relief.
Absolutely.
Thank
Councilor
you.
McDonald, thank you. I was at the one in the past October, we were present, and it was very eye-opening. And I left there with the sense that there are people out there doing things, but we're not coordinated. As coordinated as we should be. I shouldn't say that. There are groups, we have a situation table where we share information. There are things that are happening. I think we can be better. That's what I think. I think we can do it better. That's just the reality. I think we need a coordinated, calculated plan that's evidence-based, that looks at where the real problems are and looks at how to apply the finite resources that every agency will have. But I know that they have people doing things. I went to Georgia Bay Native Women's Association, and it was for a feather that we had for a detachment that one of our officers was able to get for people that didn't want to swear affirm, but they wanted to hold a feather. And so we now have that available. So I went to accept the feather with the officer on behalf of the detachment. And as I was walking in, I met a young man walking out, and he introduced himself. And I said, "Oh, what do you do?" And he said, "Actually, I'm a youth worker, and I go out and I interact with Indigenous youth in our streets." I'm like, "So you do that?" So we have somebody that's doing that, but with who else? Where's the coordination? And it occurred to me that we can do better. And I think that leans into community safety and well-being plan. It leads into my portion of community well-being that I really won't get into depth on, because it's really about the coordination of services for the partners. And I am very committed, Councilor McDonald, because I think really it's the only thing that will make a difference. The Band-Aid approach of just arresting people, grabbing liquor. I've been on foot patrols. I actually went down and seen Councilor East down at his store the one day, and on the way down, I probably dumped out about two or three beers. I didn't issue tickets because the people are homeless. They're of no fixed address. And what's a liquor ticket going to do to somebody who's never going to pay it? So look at it this way. What if we could actually help people that are homeless, that have addictions problems, and we're trying to get them back on the feet? And then they go and they finally get back, they get a job, they're going to go get their car, and they have $20,000 in unpaid fines. So how do we get over that hurdle? So I'm not saying that not doing anything is the answer, but I'm also saying that charging people that are never going to pay the tickets, especially for liquor, is not going to make an impact. I think drugs, yes, we have to take the drugs, we have to enforce, we have to do things, but it's not going to fix the addiction. It's not getting to the root causes of that problem. So it's going to continue to exist. I think that the coordination is the only way forward.
Sorry, Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I just wanted to say in terms of collaboration, there is a monthly meeting that I'm sure they would love for you to be a part of. It's Georgian Bay Women's Association, Wendat, Guest House Shelter, Salvation Army, all of the agencies that you're speaking about that do street outreach. They meet monthly to make sure that they can collaborate as much as possible. And I think you probably would be a missing piece to that. And I would be happy to connect you with the people that are running that so that you can get involved with that. And there can be like some sort of collaboration between you two, because that's obviously something that is necessary. There's no point in you doing outreach when someone else is doing outreach and vice versa, or they're trying to do your job, you're trying to do theirs. Absolutely, I agree. Collaboration is what this council is all about. And I think that they would love to open their arms and invite you to that table. So I will connect you with them.
Excellent, Council Ball. I do appreciate that, and I would welcome that. I think it's essential, it's needed. And I know we don't know each other that well. However, I like to look at plans, but make them operational. I like to have action to get out on the streets and to make a difference. I don't like to have meetings just to have other meetings. I like to have meetings to make a difference. So I'd be happy to be a part of that. Like I said earlier, we are looking at increasing our MCERT complement. So they have a mental health focus, but we could also use them for community engagement. And I think it's an important piece of something that I could bring to the table and bring in the information that they require. So thank you for that. I'd be happy.
Counselor Bald.
Thank you. I just wanted to find out if you need some information. I was a Crown for 16 years and I'm retired now. So,
Congratulations.
so yes,
Yes.
it was a long 16 years, I'll tell you. But in any case, if you do, want to speak to me, or I would like to speak to you, so just let me know. Okay.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bald. I would welcome that conversation. Like I said, and it's funny because you don't I don't point the finger at the Crowns for withdrawing the charges. I know that there's case law that if people don't get to trial in time, they're going to drop the charges anyway, right? Because it's an unreasonable delay, so therefore it becomes a charter violation. I understand that very well. They are facing systemic issues, but I think there has to be a fix. I'd be interested in that conversation. Is what can we do to advance that? Because what we're
agree.
doing now isn't working. So
I agree with all of what you said there. So
thank you, Councillor.
hopefully we can meet and, chat about that.
Absolutely, for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, before I go back to Counselor McDonald, I want to turn. I just wanted to say thank you. Every single time I speak to you or hear you speak, you make me feel like there's hope. And it's inspiring. For the first time since, I don't know how long, with the county coming to the table and providing a help in our town, and with our police being ready to just jump in and be part of it. It just makes me feel happy because we are a community and I want to keep it that way. And we're very, very fortunate to have you. Absolutely very fortunate to have you, because not everybody's going to do what you do. They don't think about getting to the root and helping with the problem. I don't like Band-Aids. Sometimes they're necessary, but they need to be very brief. And getting to the root, it takes much longer, it takes more effort, it takes more work, but it's worth it. And I'm so glad that you think that way, and I appreciate what you do.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I really appreciate that. Of interest on the topic of community well-being, we provide an office space actually in this building here where our police station is, to a member of our community safety services, or formerly community safety services. They just changed their name. But she's a clinician. She specializes in hospital patient transfer times, which is of interest to us so that we could hand people off and then get back to the road to do more calls for service. So she is actually working on some of those protocols, which is in the plan. But there's a grant that I became aware of through WENDAT on funding for more mental health workers and things like that. So where I'm going with this is when we sit down as community partners, I am aware that there are grants to help communities. There are grants to fund these things. There might be grants to hire a position. I know that, for example, the Dryden OPP have a program called Pathways. Now, theirs is rather unique. They didn't have access to a lot of services. We do have services down here. They didn't have access to as many. So they actually hired a person that was a former addict, fully recovered, and wanted to get out and work. They hired that person. They now are technically employed under a grant, but through the OPP, to go out and interact with people struggling for addictions. And they have multiple success stories. So those are the kind of things that I'm interested in and I'm willing to step up and start to champion. And again, like I said, the extra officers, the overtime, it's temporary, it's a cost. However, I know that there are grants to do long-term things, not these Band-Aid solutions. So I have the researcher that's with us right now. She's actually looking at European models. We're not just sticking to Canada. It's like, what else are they doing in other countries? What else are they doing in Europe? They tend to be quite progressive. So we're looking for successful models, and she's going to report back to me because I want to bring that forward to the table of partners to say, can we do this? Sometimes you'll be met with a no, but I don't like no's because there's always a way to either go around obstacles, under them, over them. obstacles are just obstacles. I think if we all are looking towards the end goal of real community safety and well-being, that we can work around things and develop new things. And that's really what I'm interested in. So we have that coming as well. But thank you.
Councillor McDonald.
I'm going to ask you two questions. What is your reaction to safe injection sites? Are they worthwhile? And then did I hear you say that there is going to be increased presence in the downtown Midland for a bit?
Yeah, so what I'm thinking about doing on the increased presence piece is putting out community focus patrols as overtime through the summer period. But what I want to do is do a little bit of consultation. Part of that is with the BIA, because I want to target the resources, being aware that officers will become increasingly tired, and there's a lot of mental strain on them. I need to put the shifts where they're needed to keep them at a minimum. Also, there is a cost, right? So I don't want, and I'm a taxpayer as well, so I don't want increased costs unnecessarily. I want, if we're going to do something, for it to make a difference, albeit this is a temporary solution to increase visibility, which I think will have an impact, in fairness. So that is something I am going to bring forward and implement, but I just want council to know that you will see more officers. But if there is an increase in the cost of police services, that's also why. We do have a lot of officers, but we also have a large area that we do cover. So in fairness, that's why I'm going the direction of the overtime to address this right now. And I think that there is the opportunity to also work with the One Community One Community Solutions to probably offset the need for us to be there as much, depending on what they bring and do. I just don't know what that model is, but I'm interested in working with them to ensure the safety. Safe injection sites. This is a Todd Pittman opinion, not an OPP opinion. It is largely being discussed with police services across Canada. I can only tell you what I've heard. I know in British Columbia, I was actually talking to the Vancouver City Police at a conference that I was at about the idea of the safe injection sites. Initially, it sounded like a good idea because it provided a place for people to go. It wasn't in the streets so much. It was out of the public eye. It was supervised. We could keep things clean, the needle deposits, everything. The reality is it grew legs, and it's now morphed to where they actually just changed the legislation again to where they can inject within a certain distance of schools because there were addicts and people hooked on drugs injecting on school property. They were sitting at the hospitals, just injecting at the hospitals because of the overdose they were hoping. So it actually got a lot bigger than they initially intended, and they've lost control of it. So I understand the concept going back to what is a ticket going to do? It's not going to curtail the behavior. You have to treat the behavior. The punishment is not a deterring factor for an addict because they're hooked. They have to get help to get off of that. So do I think providing the access for the site is the answer? I'm not so sure, right? When we look at, homelessness in town, we have our homeless shelter downtown, right? The intended consequence is to provide a place for people to go. The reality is that we're a part of the Simcoe County shelter system. To Councillor Metis's comment is we actually do know who's up here. We have a lot of people from Toronto that are not a part of this community, that are wanted on warrants, that are violent people that we've actually arrested and asked to ship back because of their warrants. So we do have an increase of people that are not from this community in this community because of the shelter system. It's an unintended consequence, but the reality is it's here and we're dealing with it now. And that's the same thing with safe injection sites, is that I think that we'll lose control of it and it will just grow legs.
Councillor East.
I know that this is the third round and this is the last one, so it's very much true. Once you open Pandora's box, you can't shut it. So, and the temporary Band-Aid fix, believe it or not, is really during these summer months. I can speak to a single mother that just tried to walk into her apartment building with her children with two people very, very messed up, scaring the hell out of her children and wouldn't let her pass. That's broad daylight. So incredibly calm. And it's very important. So I'm very grateful that you're going to put that effort down there. I'm all for a balanced conversation about the root and being a part of the solution instead of being a part of the problem. But at the same time, there has to be that balanced conversation of community safety and keeping our community safe. So I am very appreciative that you're going to put some effort downtown. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor East.
Councillor Metis.
Thank you. I just wanted to have a word before Mayor Gordon started speaking. And I'm just, it's just a big thank you to you and your commitment to this community. I'm confident that with you and our community partners and this council, we can hopefully make a difference. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Metis.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I just wanted to speak on the grants and the funding that you were talking about and being able to provide leadership in programs that might not exist otherwise. The library does have the ability to have funding from Simcoe County for a social worker. They have not been able to secure that because they don't have the capacity or ability to oversee a social worker or even develop a program. So maybe that's something, again, with the collaboration that the OPP is able to take on. To be able to have a social worker in around the library especially is extremely important, and it would be very valuable. So to be able to make that happen, if the OPP has that capacity, that would be amazing. So I'm glad to hear that you have the ability to foster programs like that. So hopefully something will come of that. And before I don't get a chance, I just wanted to speak briefly on the youth engagement officer. She's phenomenal. So I just wanted to say that before we go any further and it ends. I wanted to just say that she's been involved in a lot of community initiatives and projects that I've been able to witness, and she's doing very well by the OPP. So I just wanted to give her some very amazing props for her.
Thank you, Councillor. I sing her praises often. Thank you.
Councillor Patel.
Thank you, Deputy. So just with what you said about safe injection, I think I feel the same way. The words free, safe, and easy can be misled. So I think I'm not for the safe injection. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Okay, one more for me before I give the floor to Mayor Gordon. I just want to tell you that I appreciate everything that the OPP is doing. I appreciate you, and I feel honored that we have you here tonight and willing to work with other partners, willing to talk to us and answer our questions. It's just fantastic. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I look forward to the next time I come. Hopefully that there is a difference being made and a noticeable impact, especially in our downtown core. It does draw a lot of our resources as police. We do get a lot of calls down there. So it's a trade-off to me. So if I dedicate resources to it permanently, does it reduce the overall call volume that we're getting because we're moving in the direction that we should be? I think it will. So that's why I'm so keen to give some resources to explore what we can do to do things better, to work with partners. I think it will have a positive impact and ultimately reduce the calls for service and do other things like reduce crime, the crime severity index, and all the important things that I keep an eye on as well. So thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you. Mayor Gordon.
There isn't much left to say. Honestly, you guys nailed it. When Inspector Pittman and I had an opportunity to talk, we were talking about something else, and it very quickly, as you can imagine with me, morphed. And we ended up talking about a bunch of different issues. I get the same emails and calls that all of you get. And the ones that I think you don't get, I flip you so you know what's going on. We were talking about some issues around a local business across from the shelter that was experiencing, basically a plague of issues. And at any rate, so I just wanted to thank you for coming and speaking to council tonight. We kind of shoehorned you into the agenda. I just thought it was This was way too important for just you and I to have a coffee chat about. This needed to be, council, the public, everyone needed a chance to be able to talk to you about the initiatives that you've been dreaming up. So I appreciate the opportunity to brainstorm with you, how responsive you remain, and these initiatives. And the very real reality that, I'm prepared to defend an increased cost in policing for those extra boots on the ground as you can spare them. Because I know that we still can't, even if we wanted to, we couldn't, subscribe to more policing in our community because of the moratorium on police officers. We could subscribe for more specials and things like that, but not for police officers. So I appreciate the effort you're doing. The fact that you're fully staffed right now, that's a bonus. But Midland isn't. It is the center of our universe. But I recognize in your world we're Zone 5, and honestly, no more deserving of your resources, your precious resources, than zones 1 through 4. But I do appreciate that we do make the most calls for service, therefore draw the most resources out of the community. And that if you're going to put more people in our downtown, which I fully endorse and thank you for, I think we as a council need to be cognizant that that's a draw on policing and our neighbors. And they're going to be experiencing, as a result, longer response times to less serious calls. And, maybe the feeling of less policing, because Midland's like going to be a black hole sucking all of those resources in. So that's something I'll talk to my neighboring mayors with at our next all mayors meeting, and apologize in advance. Some of them watch these shows, so they'll see this and they'll probably be talking to me in the next couple of days, and you. But anyway, I don't have a whole lot to add. Council has picked off all the salient points, and you've addressed the ones that we talked about that I was hoping somebody would draw out of you. You did. So I'm just wondering how our sort of collaborative drug house approach that we dreamed up at that drug house talk is working out, or is it at all? That's the collaboration between police, fire, bylaw, and taking this tag team approach when you attend on a warrant, or fire gets a tip that it's like a flop house, and is our communication channel working, and are you able to take this? And it's neat that we got Kel in the office tonight, or in council tonight. Is it being effective? Because again, to your point, we had this meeting, we made some promises to the community. They don't necessarily feel it all the time. They see your presence at drug houses doing bus, and then they see the same, numpties back out 8 hours later doing exactly the same thing. And then we get the emails. So I'm just wondering, has there been any effect? Has that been effective, or is it any challenges to that? Because that is something that is within our limited ability to manage.
Yeah, so from what I understand, and Kale's here as well and could probably speak to it directly, is that there has been outreach and connection on some of those drug houses. So what we're referring to is we go in, we execute a drug warrant. It's hard to evict people based on a charge because we can arrest them and then they go back home, right? We have no ability to remove them from their home. And even for a landlord to remove somebody to go through the tribunal takes some time, as we've seen actually in Midland, and there have been houses where people have been evicted and boarded up and are being renovated. So that's a good thing to be able to move forward. But if the house doesn't have working smoke alarms, isn't safe, it's clear, we could actually request that fire come in, property standards come in and do an inspection. And then through that inspection, if it's not safe, people can be ordered out of that house because it's not in a safe condition. Many of these houses are not safe. They're not maintained. There's garbage piled up extremely high. A lot of them live in squalor. You would not believe it unless you've seen it. So that's the type of partnership that we're also working on with our local fire services to bring them in to say, I'm not sure these smoke alarms don't look to be working. We're not the experts. Can you take a look and let us know what you think? So we do have that in place. It is active. I'm not going to say anything about drug warrants or enforcement other than our drug unit is back to capacity and is actively working on multiple cases in our entire detachment area, of which includes Midland. So I assume that now, because we have more drug officers, there will be increased collaboration with our fire partners as well as we see these issues. So thank you for that, Your Worship. That is something that we are actively pursuing as well.
Great. Just a follow up to private security downtown. That's another thing that gets brought up, like, during coffee chats and Facebook comments and stuff. What role, if any, could the town contract private security to enhance safety downtown? Like what role, if any, do you see private security playing if we wanted to fund that because we can't, buy more police officers?
So I think in the private areas of business, depending on those lots, I'm not sure if those are privately or publicly owned, like in the back of the business and things like that, we could have roving private security patrols as well. So if you go to, we're a small town, but we are having big city problems, right? We do have increased thefts. We do have increased drug use. And I think the reality is that we have increased mischief going through vehicles. So I think the visibility, the presence would be welcome. They can enforce on private property with the permission of the property owner or the Trespass of Property Act. So that's one of the things that we're actually doing with the banks is I have assigned an officer as of last week I sent the email to have an officer assigned. So I think they were assigned this week to go around to the banks and talk to them about having private security, clear people out of the vestibules. One of the other pieces is it's not just on private security, but it's also us as the OPP to give us advance permission that if there are people sleeping in there trespassing and people don't feel safe going in, that we have the authority on their property to remove people, because otherwise it's private property. The banks own it. So we are going to around to reestablish those connections. But I think that security patrols, one like the one community solutions, I think that's the name, would be welcome. And I'd be happy to work in partnership with them on clarifying lanes of responsibility and roles. So, because if they're doing one thing, then there's no reason, and if it's effective, to have the police doing the same thing. What can we do? Then do we focus on the drug use? Do we focus on getting those people moved along? Do we focus on connecting them with the right partners once we engage with the partners? That's really what I'm interested in, is coordinating resources and looking at who's doing what to ensure there's overlap, but not duplicity. So I think private security would definitely have a role in that, Your Worship.
Thanks again for coming tonight. Really appreciate it. Because it's a mixed bag of, you don't know what's coming at you. And so I appreciate your candid and openness to just appear on our agenda item and field questions from council and that, or questions from the community. So thanks a lot and keep doing what you do. And we'll keep the communications channels wide open to council.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I just have a closing comment. I don't want to open a bag of worms because I know we're out of time. However, the other part of our detachment action plan is on a big one. It's on roads, trails. So it's about highway safety. It's about aggressive driving, speeding complaints, stop signs. Number one complaint in the organization, probably the number one complaint in town as well. I just want you to know that I do have an approach where we have part-time members that work for us, and then we have rotational members that go and work in the north and come back to our detachment for a period of 3 weeks on a 7-week rotation. That those officers are being assigned to traffic enforcement specifically. Calls for service increase in the summer. Officers are responding to calls. We have issues downtown. Officers go to those. They can't write tickets while they're doing those. So I'm trying to develop a solution in community to still have a response, to still have people working on that. So I just want you to know that that is something of interest to me. I know there are conversations. I spoke with Penetang around the automated speed enforcement, the AMPS program. I think it will have a positive impact. It will slow vehicles down. I think there are weaknesses to it in that the driver doesn't get punished, the registered owner of the car does. However, people are cognizant of the speed reductions, of the existence of the camera. It will slow people down. That's reality. Cars will slow down, and those that don't will get tickets. It doesn't remove the work of the police, so we are still needed for traffic enforcement. We're still needed to interact and will. But I think in working together and developing community solutions, roadway modifications, things, I think they all contribute to road safety. So I just want you to know that I do have an approach for that as well, and have implemented it. So I do see our numbers going up, which is both good and bad. It's good because there's increased enforcement, bad because people aren't slowing down. But I just wanted to share that in closing. Thank you so much for all of your questions, your support, and I look forward to connecting with several of you afterwards and continuing to work together. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
We hope you were able to gain a bit more of a perspective of Midland's community safety from the police department's perspective. And now we are going to move on to another story from that same city council meeting: boat launch fees. As the weather warms up, a lot of people are looking for ways to get back out on the water. We have been approached by citizens saying that These fees for boat launches, parking on the waterfront are insane. As the summer continues, we will be covering more of the story of water access for our citizens. But for now, we wanted to bring you the story from that city council meeting where the boat launch fees were discussed.
So on to 12.3, CSR 2024 50, collection of boat launch fees. The staff report CSR 2024 50, collection of boat launch fees dated May 22nd, 2024 be received, and that council approves immediately reinstating the daily boat launch fees that have been placed under review as part of the ad hoc parking committee review and recommendation. Can I ask for a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Ball and Councillor East. Okay, I'll open the floor for any questions or comments. Councillor East.
So I just, actually, while you're here, Smiley, right? Sorry, memory is a little foggy there. Come on up if I can. If we reinstated the fees, how is bylaw planning on enforcing them? Do we have some sort of direction in that way? And if we decided to not reinstate them, the second part of the question is the people that have already paid the permit fees, will they be reimbursed? That's the second part of that question.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor East. Yeah, the reason this was brought forward is because we thought that the parking program was put on hold, but we're trying to divide this into a boat launch fee and not parking. And that's why the report came from Karen. But yeah, like ethically, as of right now, we cannot enforce it. You know, but by reinstating this, you know, we will be able to do some enforcement there. Because we're selling the $100 permits to residents and the $200 permits to non-residents, but there's no way for people to pay because the parking machines have been removed or are in the process of being removed.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. So the process would be that the public goes to the town dock to purchase the permits. And then the plan would be that you guys would be patrolling the boat launches on a regular basis. And if so, what is the plan for patrolling? Would it be, 6 to 8 o'clock at night? What are your plans with that?
Through the chair to Councillor East, if we, as of right now, I'll let Karen speak to the piece about the harbor and selling the passes there. But yeah, if we can check all the boxes that every person has had the opportunity to pay, and we can continue to patrol. We usually have staff on the weekends between 9 a.m. to approximately 7 p.m. And yeah, we will actively patrol it. But as of right now, with no machine, it's just not ethical to enforce at this time. So that's what we're trying to do. And Karen, if you have anything to add.
Through the chair to Councillor East. So yes, right now the $100 resident annual pass and the $200 non-resident annual pass are being sold at the harbor, and people can also come to the municipal office to purchase them. If you decide to not implement any of the fees, we will have to refund those funds that we've collected. The ones we're looking to have reinstated are the day use passes for a resident or a non-resident who just wants to launch and then take their boat out that same day. And if we proceed, we'll use the hotspot option. It's the app that you can install on your phone. You can also use it as your desktop computer. And then we'll put up new signage for that as well. And we'll have a meeting. It's probably take about a week for hotspot to put this in place. We have a tentative meeting scheduled with them to go through the options and have them update the app for us.
Councillor Patel.
Through you, Deputy. So my question is, I don't see is there a penalty for violating for not purchasing the permit? And if there is, What is the amount?
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Patel, there is a penalty. In our parking bylaw, the charge for parking at a boat launch without a valid permit is $80 for the early fine and $90, after 7 days. And the reason it's one of our higher ones, but the reason for that is, it was $50 to launch your boat, so the penalty needed to kind of match that because people are willing to take their chances.
So just to follow up, maybe looking into having a higher fee to deter people taking a chance on the $50, in the region of over 150 or something. Just a question.
Through the chair to Councillor Patel, absolutely. That's something that we identified in the bylaw review and prioritization report that our fines are a little light compared to other municipalities. And that's something we want to update.
I just have a question. When they purchase their parking or their pass, is that a piece of paper that is put in the windshield of their car, or is the car actually registered?
To the chair. We give them a sticker that they put in their dash. We also record their license plate and we collect their name and their telephone number as well.
Okay, thank you. I'm just thinking sometimes people have multiple cars, right? Or they could be with a friend going out in the boat and they're using a different vehicle. Would they have the ability to, they don't have the ability to put something in their dash to protect them if they've already paid?
If they purchase an annual pass, it's for that one vehicle. It goes in that one vehicle.
Thank you. Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I think just to go further on that, you have to actually affix the sticker to your window too. You can't just put it on like a slidey plastic thing that you can pass over to the other car. It's an offense to not decal it, like affix it to your window, I think, if I recall correctly, which makes sense because, otherwise it is just handed off. So just again, to reiterate, right now we have this kind of black hole, this void. We've kind of painted ourselves into a corner. We have our parking conundrum we're going to deal with this year with the parking committee getting underway, and Councillor East, you're back. So you're going to be on that bad boy and we'll come up with something sustainable. But what fell through the cracks was the boat launch. And, there's no free boat launches in municipalities around us. We've aligned our fees and harmonized them. So we're like with Penetang, which you actually get a bit more services at because there's humans there and a little hut. And I think that was our goal. Councillor Metis brought up that as an objective was for us to get a little hut and a person there to be an ambassador and also to police that boat launch so that every person that uses it has a pass, a day use pass, a season's pass, and no one's, using it for free unless you come at 11 o'clock at night, and there's always going to be that. But to make this fair and equitable. So we agreed on a reasonable fee. Now for a change this year, we've actually given non-residents the ability to buy a pass, which they didn't have before. They had to pay to play. So the one missing piece though is that we didn't lock this down and check enough boxes that, bylaw could in good faith go in and enforce. And to the comment about, let's make these fees a bit more of a disincentive and higher, I'd be all for that too, because if people are going to roll the dice and figure out bylaw's not going to catch me, I'm of the mind, well, why don't we just call the local towing company and there's the truck and the trailer off, it goes to impound. That'll be the last time you ever roll the dice at our boat launch, right? But that's probably a little overbearing, but that's, as someone who's used boat launches before and haven't been able to find a place to park, even though I've paid and have my sticker, it's frustrating. So step one though, is we just need to be able to enforce what we got in place. We've lowered the bar. We made it more accessible to our non-resident neighbors to use this amazing little boat launch we have that, quite frankly, if you get out into Midland Bay, you're a lot closer to Beausoleil and other good spots than you are in Penetang Bay. We don't have the speed zone to contend with either. You can just hammer down as soon as you get out past the sailing club. So there's a lot of reasons why people love the Midland boat launch. So I think this is a well thought out approach. It's a stopgap. It's an app. I get it. Not everyone has a cell phone with data, but I would argue that the lion's share of people that can afford a boat and a truck to pull it and a trailer and everything they have insurance and they have a smartphone. And if for some reason they decide to go boating without their smartphone, which I think was a, unwise decision, but let's say they did, they can at home purchase this permit, or they can go to the harbor office. So there's really no good argument why we wouldn't do this for this year while we come up with a longer term solution, and which will be melded into whatever parking 2.0 or 3.0, I guess it would be, ends up being for the town. So I think this is a good way forward for this year. Lets us monetize it while we try and get our ducks in a row and come up with whether we're going to put a hut down there and staff it, and really try and raise some revenues from this boat launch that'll help maintain the quality of the boat launch, and of course the docks that go with it. And dare say, maybe even because it's all part of the harbor money, maybe even help feed into the harbor to offset some of our costs at the harbor, where we could then hire security. We were talking to Coffee about the need for security down our harbor to stop, some of the non-residents from wandering onto people's boats, and helping themselves to their generators, or, just being on the boats. So we need money to do that. And so this asset's a way to do that. So I think this is a well thought out report. It's a good way to deal with our issue for 2024 as we move into 2025 with some new solutions and hopefully some funding to go with those. So I'm fully in support of these recommendations. I'd love it would be free. It'd be awesome if it would be free, but free just means Midland taxpayers in totality are paying for it. And, Midland taxpayers are stretched pretty thin right now, especially the ones that don't have the money for a boat and don't ever use this asset. So pay for what you use. It's an ongoing mantra that I use when I'm having debates about fees with people. And it's a hard one to win the argument against, because if you're not paying for what you're using, you're stealing it. So someone's got to pay. So anyway, good work on the report, and I fully support it.
Councillor Ball.
Thank you. I'm in agreement. I think this report is really great. I think the options of being able to think about smartphones as well as the harbor office were well thought out. And I think that this is one of those multi-item motions that was passed and this kind of slipped through the cracks. So I'm glad to see this come back and it caught before the beginning of the season. So I'm in full support of this. Thank you.
Councillor Metis.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. I do like the ask here for the hotspot app, and then obviously to if you don't have a smartphone, to get it at the harbor master. So I think there's a need to charge here. The one thing that we did talk about when bringing charging for the boat launch is that the money generated from the boat launch stays in the boat launch fund for the upgrades. And I understand there's some major upgrades happening this year and probably ongoing. I mean, and so when you're talking about harbor and I'm glad we're separating, it's not parking. It's not intermixed with parking. So when you're talking with harbor, I just want to make sure that when we agreed to this, it was supposed to be strictly for the boat launch area, that when we do generate some funds, that it's spent down there. So, and another thing is coming in the 2025 budget, I'll be bringing back my my ask to have an attendant down there in a different kind of format once we get the parking meter issue resolved. So. And it should be cost effective and hopefully generate increased revenue, because the one complaint I had from last year is a guy who paid for whether it's his daily launch or his season launch, is that people in front of him, could be 4 or 5 people that didn't pay, got away with it, and there was no fairness in that. He paid, he has to wait. So I think the increased bylaw patrol in the summer months, especially if it's a sunny day. I was there this weekend launching our boat. I actually did see bylaw go by, Um, and obviously I didn't have I couldn't pay for my daily lunch because there's no machine. So I didn't understand how he would, but he was patrolling, which is great. But there was a lot of people down there. So there is a need for an, some constant patrolling of that area to make sure that the ones that aren't paying, keeping them honest. So the ones that are paying, that you set a precedent there that if you pay and someone gets caught, makes you feel pretty good that you paid. So, but anyways, I support this, and hopefully we can improve upon this next year and have an attendant there with some service, and I think it'll make the voters really happy down there. Thank you.
If there's no more questions or comments, you've heard the motion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. On to 12.4, CSR 24 52 Sixth Street Parking Review. That staff report CSR 2024 52 Sixth Street Parking Review, May 22nd, 2024 be received, and that council approves the following approach related to the Sixth Street parking review as shown on attachment number 3. That the current stop prohibited on the east side of Sixth Street from Yonge Street to 220 meters northerly be maintained. That a new park prohibited section be added on the east side of Sixth Street from 220 meters north of Yonge Street to Hugel Avenue. That the current stop prohibited on the west side of Sixth Street from Yonge Street to a point of 20 meters northerly be maintained. That the current parking prohibited on the west side of Sixth Street from Yonge Street to 150 meters north between the hours of 8 a.m. and 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, be replaced with parking prohibited at all times from a point 20 meters northerly from Yonge Street to a point of 67.5 meters northerly from Yonge Street. That the current park prohibited on the west side of Sixth Street from 220 meters north of Yonge Street to Hugel Avenue be amended to allow for parking from a point 67.5 meters northerly from Yonge Street to Hugel Avenue. That the current parking permissions and restrictions on 7th Street be maintained. That bylaw 2021-24, being a bylaw to regulate parking within the town of Midland, be amended to reflect the proposed changes as shown in attachment number 4 to this report. Can I have a mover or a seconder? Councillor Patel, Councillor Ball. Okay, the floor is open for any questions or comments. Councillor Ball.
I just wanted to, I guess, clarification that 7th Street on that one side, they are able to stop and park right now. There's no highlighted.
Councillor Ball, do you mind repeating that for me?
Sorry, if you bring up the diagram that is highlighted
Mhm.
on one side of 7th Street, they are allowed to park there, is my question, first for clarification.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So my next question is, what happens when they complain, like 6th Street residents have complained? How are we alleviating this issue?
Well, alleviating the fact that there's parking on one side of the street, not on the other? I don't understand.
And not on 6th Street now? There's no stopping, no parking on
No,
6th Street?
No, absolutely. I think you're misunderstanding. If you look at attachment number 3 to the report, it's what we're proposing. And that is to maintain the stop prohibited section on the east side of the road, about halfway to Hugel, and then continue that with park prohibited all the way to Hugel. And then that will leave most of the west side of the street available for parking, which is kind of what brought this all about, and the deputants wanted was more parking, you know, because even the timed park prohibited parking that was on the west side of 6th Street, you know, it didn't even allow, it wasn't even like during school hours. It was, I can't remember exactly what it said, but it was, I think it just said between 8 a.m. and 5 p.m. It didn't even, you know, so that includes the weekends as well. So we felt this solution, this proposal, you know, kind of takes into account everybody, and you know, it kind of mimics what's going on 7th Street. But also it now will allow parents to, you know, come down 6th Street and drop their children off on the west side of the street, which is where the sidewalk is, just to allow that safe passage. So.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. There's been so much discussion on this that it's been getting a bit confusing. So I wanted to clarify the diagram. So I appreciate that. And I just was wondering if that 15-minute parking drop-off type situation had been looked at as opposed to the no parking and the parking, because I didn't see that in this report. So I'm just wondering if that was talked about, or if this was a preferred option by the school board, or if that was just not thought about at all. Because I know in other school zones, and I know Councillor McDonald brought it up previously, that most of the other school zones just have that 15-minute parking for drop off and pickup during those hours of school drop offs and pickups. I'm just wondering if that was looked at.
Through the chair to Councillor Ball, yes, that was looked at. That wasn't the preferred option. It is actually mentioned in the report in the options alternatives section, but it's not something I would recommend, just because it's more onerous on staff, because it's at least the 2 visits, and in my time here, it's been over 2 years. We've issued 1 ticket, and that was at the post office in that 15-minute zone where someone parked there all day. So it's not something we enforced regularly, but you know, so that's why I didn't recommend that, but we did look at it.
Thank you. This has been a hard issue to tackle, so I appreciate it.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Through you to Mr. Smiley. I'm curious, when meeting with Mundy Bay and the Simcoe County District School Board on March 7th, was the lack of parking area for staff in the unused school drop-off zone on 6th Street addressed?
Through the chair to Councillor McDonald, yes, that was discussed, because it was part of our letter that kind of engaged them in conversation, and the principal told me he took great offense to it. But you know, which is okay, because we got the results I think that we're looking for. And you know, their response was that all those there does seem to be a string of vehicles that are parked on 7th Street, and he said that's not his staff that's parking there. And even when Mr. Farquharson and I went to that meeting, you know, we ended up parking on 7th Street because we were of the impression that there wouldn't be any. But then sure enough, we walked in the front door and saw a few spots that we could have used. So yeah, it was discussed. They do use the kiss and ride, I think, and we discussed the one on 7th Street. That's for the buses. But it's not for, you know, but people are permitted to drop off their children in the kiss and ride, drop and continue on.
Okay, well, I'll check that out for sure. And I have a friend that lives on 7th Street. She knows the person teaches there, and that person parks in front of her house all day. So someone's not aware of this.
Yeah, and I don't mind responding to that, but sometimes people lie to me. It's terrible.
I have a couple of more questions, if I may. Yes. Why is there no stopping signs for 20 meters on the east side of 7th Street? The way there is on Sixth Street.
Yeah, that's Councillor McDonald, that's a tough one to answer. I'm not sure why they went that route. I know, there is a parking charge for park within 9 meters of any intersection, and that's over 20, 29 feet. So, I think in this case, it was park prohibited on 7th Street and it's stop prohibited on 6th Street, just to make more awareness. And I can't explain why it was done that way. Uh, but, uh, but, but, I will say that in most municipalities, a stop prohibited offense is more serious than a park prohibited offense. In our municipality currently, they're exactly the same set fine. So that's something, as we've identified in the bylaw review and prioritization report, that we want to address and make it a little more serious. But yeah, we just want to keep the kids away from the intersection and it's not an appropriate place for people to stop because people are turning left and, from Young Street. So it causes a huge bottleneck when there are vehicles illegally parked like that.
Go ahead. Mr. Farquhar.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So just to add to that, should council approve the recommendation, what we'll do is because we're gonna have to install new signs in that area as well and remove old ones. So we'll do an inventory of both streets to make sure that the signs are in the correct positions. The signs are there so we'll do an inventory of 6th and 7th. Should council approve this and we have to change signs, so.
Paula? Yes, a more comment. This plan is much better than what currently exists, and I'm grateful for that. And but significant changes with additional parking on school property is required. I think or a better kiss and ride situation. It's the school's problem, not ours. And I think we should continue to pursue it with the school board, whether they like it or not.
I don't remember who was next, so Mayor Gordon. Oh, okay.
Wrong bill.
Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. To you, Mr. Smiley. On the number 3 attachment on the west side of 6th Street, where you have the no parking. It goes from parking and then it's right by basically no parking from going up from Young Street on the west side. Why wouldn't we extend that parking all the way down to the no stopping in the red on the west side? What is the purpose of that no parking little bit?
Through the chair to Councillor Metis, during our meeting there on March 7th, it just wasn't identified as something that didn't need to be there. And, I do see value in it because it provides people who are using the kiss and ride a better opportunity to move out onto the street. So that's why we wanted to keep that, to encourage people to use the, closer to Hugel area and the sidewalk to provide safe passage to school. And also, but, if that's council's will to have that removed, that can be accommodated.
Yeah, I just didn't know if it met some type of law with the transportation or like how you kind of explained on the previous to Councilor McDonald. I'm just wondering with the residences there on the no stopping side, which is the east side. That means if they had company over or so forth, or they'd have to kind of go up the street a little bit to park. That's the only issue that may arise from this. I mean, I think it's a good compromise in every way. I like the report and so forth. That's the only little jog. Might have a little setback there, but I guess we can come back if there is. Not that I want to come back to 6th Street parking, but Mr. Farquharson has a comment. Go ahead.
Through you, Madam Chair, just on that the little section there, when we were doing our site walk with the school, the principal actually indicated that staff were parking up on the boulevard there. So, and he even admitted it himself that he would at one point park there. So they wanted to ensure that there was no parking occurring there. And as well, as Mr. Smiley indicated, if there's allowed to be stopping there, it has the potential of blocking out that kiss and ride. And then we've got a mess there. So it allows for there to be no blockage of that driveway so that the kiss and ride can function as it's supposed to. So that was the intent of keeping that little section within the bylaw. Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillor Patel.
Through you, Deputy Mayor. So looks like it's a pretty big overhaul of what we're doing. And I'm assuming it's going to be for the new school year moving forward. Will there be communication from the school that we can relay, that parents would understand that there's major changes happen? Because humans are habitual animals and they'll continue doing what they're doing and not pay attention to the signs. Attaching balloons could be an option, but I'll leave that to you.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Patel. Yeah, we've been in communication with Mundy's Bay Public School through this whole process. And yeah, if we get the approval tonight from council, we will touch base with them after we talk to Mr. Flannery's people and find out what the time frame is that we can get this done. And yeah, we will educate, and maybe we could even do an education approach for a little bit. But people are parking illegally, habitually as well. So
Follow up.
Through you, Deputy. So again, I'm going to go back to the fines that I saw in the report. We need to maybe look at it and make it stiffer so we can avoid all the commotion that goes on around Mundy's Bay. Thank you.
thank you.
Councillor Metis.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Prost. Through you to Mr. Farquharson. You had mentioned that you're going to remove the stop signs from 6th and 7th Street, and if this is just a request not pertaining to the stop signs that you're removing. If there are stop signs that just are parking signs, sorry, that are just the P with a slash across it, if you can transport those down to the Bayport area as you go into the Midland Sailing Club on the left-hand side, the fence line, there's no parking signs that have faded. You can't even tell there's no parking. I had put this request in over a year ago, said they were on order. So hopefully maybe we will recycle those and put them on that fence line if possible.
Through Deputy Mayor. Apologies if that went in a while ago. That should be something we should be addressing much quicker. If you're referring to the, west side of the entrance as you're going into the sailing club, you said?
Yes, I believe it's when Mr. Campbell was our CAO for an interim, the request went out to him. And he said that they were ordered, but yes, on the left-hand side on the fence, chain link fence, as you're going into the Midland Sailing Club, there's a bunch of signs there, and I believe there are no parking. That you can't even tell, but I believe there's no parking. But I may be wrong. But I just thought maybe if we recycle those signs, we could put them there.
Yeah, through the chair to Councillor Meredith. Actually, I wasn't aware of that request last year, but one of my officers proactively observed that and sent an email to Mr. Flannery's team, and they have been ordered. So, yeah, Yeah, I emailed Mr. Turnbull and he's getting that done.
Perfect. Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, just for clarification, you said stop signs. We're not removing stop signs. So, and yeah, if there is existing no parking signs, no stopping that we can reuse for signs that are faded or whatever, we'll leave it with the operations group to see if they can reuse those. But it sounds like your other questions being addressed right now. Thank you.
Mayor Gordon.
Thanks. I just wanted to circle back to the east side of Seventh, the stop prohibited. That's really, it makes more sense that that's for school buses to be able to get by. These things need a lot of room to be able to pull in, and that's where all the school buses go. So, and then you also think of Blue Garden Restaurant. I know from the owners there, they have parents parking in their parking lot, using up spaces for their customers or blocking their customers who park legally on their parking lot and they're blocked. And when their customers go out and going, hey man, I got my Chinese food, can you move your car? And they're like, no, just give me a few minutes waiting for my kid. Like it's ridiculous actually that would even happen, that someone would have that kind of entitlement. So I'm glad we're taking a look at this. This is not just a Money's Bay issue. Like, to be fair, all of our schools incur this kind of insanity twice a day throughout the whole school season. And as I've admitted numerous times, I was one of those parents on 7th Street, dropping my kids off to French immersion because there's no school bus for them, and picking them up when they were little ones. So I've been part of that mess and I get it. So I think what we're trying to do now is remedy this on 6th Street. Although the proponent originally, her request was she wanted parking in front of her house and she lives on the east side, and we're prohibiting that through this. But it makes perfect sense to me that we're allowing parking on the west side, because you don't want the little ones darting out between parked cars and trying to cross the road. So, while this is not putting a smile on everyone's face, it's one of those compromise things where I think people get it. And really, that's the best kind of decision. You made a good compromise when nobody's really leaving smiling, but they all get it. So I think this is worthy of continued conversations with the school, because, obviously they're the reason this is happening. But I mean, it's a school and it's not a new problem by any stretch of the imagination. So we're just trying to bend ourselves into pretzel to accommodate safety and our resident concerns, which are equally important. But we always got to put the safety of the kids above, inconvenience of not having a neighbor or a friend parked in front of your house. And that's the way it really boils down to, unfortunately. So I appreciate this approach. I'm sorry that the first one, went over like a lead balloon and we sent you packing to come back with round 2. But this is good. It seems to be resonating with council. I haven't had any real negativity back from the original proponent who I've been communicating with. I know a couple other councillors have too. So I'm going to assume that she gets it and that it seems reasonable, and we're doing what we can to try and eliminate the mayhem that does happen there twice per day during the school year. In outside of school season, this is a non-issue, obviously, or weekends, non-issue. So I appreciate the efforts and the fact that we sent this back, and you had to go back to work on it and do site walks and go visit with the school and perhaps ruffle some feathers. But that, at the end of the day, that's what we asked you to do, and you did it. So good for you. And you let us know if there's something else you need from us to make life easier on these kind of things, whether it's Money's Bay or St. Teresa's, which also has a log jam, twice a day, or, I'm thinking on school on Ottawa Street, Bayview, or also was one of those parents. So I empathize with the residents, and I empathize with the parents who struggle because they don't have another way to get their kids to school. And I also empathize with the school that, has the untenable situation of having finite car storage for their rushes, the surges twice a day. So all in all, thanks for bringing this report back. I'm not going to try and tweak or tinker with it. I think you did a good job. And let's try it out for size for a couple of years and see how it goes.
Okay, council, you've heard the motion. All in favor? Oh, wait a minute.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to point out that the motion that you were provided was an earlier version. So recommendation number 2 has changed. So I'm just going to give you the proper recommendation for number 2, and you can just read that one in. Number 1 has stayed the same.
Okay, so number 2, that a new bylaw be enacted to reflect the proposed changes as reflected in recommendation number 1. Council, you've heard the motion. All in favor? Opposed? None. It's carried.
As we mentioned earlier, we will be continuing to cover the story on water access for citizens. So stay tuned for those stories later on this month as well. Merci for watching. So stay tuned for those stories later on this month. Merci for watching, and we'll see you down the river.